Good morning. Today is Sunday, July 27th, 2025, and this is the weekly Bitcoin price forecast, looking at where Bitcoin went in the last week and where it could potentially go in the future. So at this point, we have had a great July. It has been up. The month started off pretty strong. This is last week was the last full week of July, and this week on Friday we'll be going into August. So the first week of July, coming off of the 4th of July, it just went ballistic. Bitcoin just shot off, went $10,000 in a week, and then just kind of ranged from there. We'll see that once we get to the lower charts, but we've been in somewhat of a consolidation period for the latter half of July. But overall, it's been a great month. You see that we've gone up, $11,000 at this point within the month. So it's definitely good to see that we are moving past this area. And we'll see on the lower chart that we've really broken out of the area that's really been holding us in a range for quite some time. So this is good. It's definitely good to see, coming off of this huge month in November, and then really kind of a low swing in the beginning of this year up to the continuation of this pattern. So monthly chart, not a ton to talk about, but we see that we've clearly broken out of this area, and now we're just moving on to the upside continuously. On the weekly chart, we can see it even more clear. You see this area right here was kind of like the area of consolidation of balance. This is where people were kind of stuck in a range pretty much. Bitcoin was stuck in a range, and then finally, like I said, that first week of July, well, really the second week. That second week of July, it just absolutely ran off to the races. And then since then, we've been consolidating in this area. One thing to look at is the moving averages. Obviously, I always have these up, your white, blue, and gold ones. This is your 50 moving average, your 100 moving average, and your 200 moving average. So we see on the weekly chart, the 200 moving average is strong. It's key. Even going back to, years prior, you have periods of consolidation, but once it gets to going, that 200 moving average is a huge indicator. And once it starts going off, it keeps going. So, consolidation, this doesn't really count, but you get down here, boom, jumps off. You get down here, boom, jumps off. And then it just continues to follow this line. You see it hasn't touched the 100-week moving average just yet, and it has not touched the 200-week moving average. So that should be telling you that this 50 moving average is pretty strong. And once we start seeing the 100 and 200 getting hit, that may be the end of a major trend. And then, maybe into a period of consolidation. So down to the daily chart and kind of see what we're looking at here. And actually, let me turn on these drawings real quick. Let me go back to the weekly chart. I usually turn them on the weekly chart so we can see. On the weekly chart, you have this, we had a series of ranges, right? So you had a range down here at the bottom all the way from 2023. You had an 8-month-long bull flag. That was horrendous. Actually, was that? Yeah, that was 2024. And then coming in 2025, post-election, inauguration and everything, you had this other downtrend that really lasted until April. And then it's just been kind of off to the races ever since. You got back in this range, tested the top of it, and now we're seeing the top of this range too. So the thing that I've always been looking at is this green kind of uptrend that we've been in. So ever since the end of 2023, it's been, up and then down and then up and down and so forth. Especially seeing it right here, getting it in April. So you hit the bottom of this trend line, you hit the 50 moving average. So this is a really strong indicator that we would end up going up, getting above 100K again, coming back down, testing 100K one more time. And, remain in this bull flag and then breaking out of not only the 100K, but also this white line, this moving average, not the moving average, this, I call it the escape velocity line. You hit the peak. It couldn't do it here, couldn't do it here, couldn't do it here. But now we've broken above this area. So we broke above the peak here. And then now we see that we've broken above the peak here to where we could see it come back down and then just continue on, to the upside. So, I don't know if it'll end up coming down. There is a decent probability that it could one more time, just to see this imbalance filled and this gap filled. And then that would just absolutely give it takeoff clearance to continue moving on to the upside before breaking out of this channel. So you get to 125 and 130, that may be the last area of resistance, but you see after that, there is nothing above this. There's nothing above this area that would stop it from going down, and then you start getting parabolic pretty quickly. Daily charts. Daily chart allows you to see the area of consolidation even cleaner. So, you have two areas right here. What I see, you have, this area that 117, that doesn't look like it wants to get broken pretty easily. And then you also have, kind of like this downtrend line here. So it's been stuck in this area for a while. You could potentially see it come down to here, touch this moving average on the daily chart, and then continue up. Or, you could just have this breakout to the upside, to where it tests this and then comes back one more time and then continues on up. Um, I think it is possible that we could come back down one more time to see like these 110 lows. I don't find that to be scary at all, before, continue to move. So let's look at the 4 hour chart. 4 hour chart, we have really a little bit more clarity as to what this range is. And you could almost call it more of a bull flag. So you do have this area right here, 116. Yeah, so it's kind of a wedge, really. So, really, if we're on the 4 hour chart, you have this up, down period. We're hitting the top of this. This is what gives me, kind of some type of reason to believe that we may come back down because we are hitting the top of this area. Now, if we break above this, you could see one more time us coming back to 117, 117, 118 or so before, reaching up these upper highs. So, on the 4 hour chart, you do have a lot of protection from the moving averages, like your 200 moving averages right here. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see for sure, just because this is a very tight coiling wedge that it's been in since the beginning of July, actually. It's after it had this major run up to new all-time highs at 122 or 123. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the weekly chart. Right now we're just in this consolidation period. It didn't really move. Well, this was Saturday and whatnot, so that doesn't really count. But this week wasn't a big mover, but we'll just continue to see how that looks from here going forward. News this week. This is actually going to be a pretty news-heavy week if we're looking at it. So we have labor JOLTS jobs openings. You have the federal funds rate, so that's big. I don't think they're going to move rates at this point. And then you also have the Bank of Japan. They're also not going to move rates. Probably keep it at 0.5 or less than 0.5. Things are getting expensive over in Japan. And, with the funds rate, Powell has basically put his feet in the sand, dug his feet in the dirt, and kind of said, hey, we're not moving rates. We're not moving rates at this point. There's been hints that you may see a rate cut before the end of the year. Some people said as early as July. We'll see on Wednesday whether that's true or not. But realistically, I just don't. Before the end of the year, we may see one or two cuts. But it's very interesting with interest rates right now. Very, very interesting to see how this will go. And then for the rest of the week, you have non-farm payroll on Friday. So, 7:30 on Friday morning, you'll see the non-farm payroll numbers come out. They are expecting an increase. So from 0.2% to 0.3%, month over month. I'm sorry, that was okay. So yeah, the non-farm, that's the hourly earnings. The non-farm employment change, they're actually projecting a decrease in that. They're projecting a decrease in the non-farm employment change from 147 to 108. And let's see what that looks like on the chart. Let's see what that looks like on the chart. Again, COVID always messes this up. So you have to kind of zoom in a little bit and see what it does. So from here, we can just see that the labor market just in general has just been falling off a cliff really since, this 2021, 2022. It's just been kind of consolidating and overall in a downtrend for all this time. So, from 106 to, we were at peaks of 400 something and, 700 and 800 and all this type of stuff. So it's really been, if you're out there looking for a job, I can understand why it's difficult, because like this is just what the labor market looks like at this point. This is I like to look at other charts too. So this is the Bitcoin 200 week moving average heat map. So what I was talking about, we haven't touched the 200 moving average in quite some time. We came below it in 2022, and that's, the bear market started here, and then this was just a really kind of crypto winter. Nothing happened, deep into consolidation, and then it eventually got above the moving average and just took off. It hasn't looked back since. Um, the the 200 moving average is usually kind of like your line in the sand. So you just see one touch, two touch, three touch, four touch, and then so on and so forth. But this is actually a multi-dimensional chart. So we see over here the percent of the monthly increase over the 200 moving average. So at this point, we're not that high above it. At this point, you haven't seen any red and yellow and green, red and yellow and green, red and yellow and green. But at this point, it's just been all blue. It hadn't even been getting really lighter blue. It's just been, pretty much blue. Now, granted, it has been getting lighter here. But, realistically, we haven't seen like a blow off top yet. We haven't seen any type of green motion here or red or yellows or anything at this point. So this has been a really muted kind of stalled cycle. And you could also say that, Bitcoin is maturing and it's capping out. I don't think so. I think it will still go much higher. My original bet was 250 before the end of the year, before the end of 2025. I made that in early 2023. But yeah, whether that hits it this year or not is yet to see. It would at this point probably take a pretty parabolic run. Months and months of what do we have? 5 months left in the year, starting in August. It would take months of parabolic running for it to hit that 250. But we'll see. I mean, like again, I said it's been pretty muted, but at this point, I think a lot of the political uncertainty has evaporated, and now we are seeing just so much political levity and kind of support for Bitcoin. So it's Bitcoin's not going anywhere. Will it hit 250? Absolutely. It's going to hit 250 regardless. Before the end of the year, I don't know. But we'll just continue to follow it as we do. So, and as I was saying, so we kind of look at it. I know it's going to hit 250 because we've already mined most of the Bitcoin. Most of the Bitcoin has already been mined. It's been accounted for. And all this little circle right here is your available Bitcoin. But this is all the capital in the world. There's trillions of dollars worth of capital in the world that just from the US that could flow into Bitcoin. And it's a lot of capital seeking a little bit of stuff. So if we're talking about basic supply and demand, this is what we're going after. You're going after this, it's asymmetric over the coming years just because it's almost a risk-free trade. Especially with the political environment, with the supply and demand aspects, it's guaranteed. I don't make guarantees, but this is about as close to the guarantee as you can have that Bitcoin will continue to go up. So, and that's further proven by I look at the Bitcoin exchange on reserve. So this is all the exchanges. We see that Bitcoin is just falling. The amount of available Bitcoin has just fallen off of a cliff. It's just falling off a cliff, and it just continues to fall off. Now, you had a little bit of stall here while, the beginning of the year as Bitcoin's price kind of slumped. But now we just see that it's continuing to drop and drop and drop and drop, which is July 27th, incomplete data and whatnot. We've just fallen off a cliff. We've fallen off an absolute cliff here, and it's just going to continue to drop. So at this point, there are about 2.5 million Bitcoin available on exchanges. And again, that's 2.5 million Bitcoin competing for, 8 billion people. And we're not even just talking people. We're talking corporations. We're talking businesses and all types of other entities. We're talking countries. These things will affect the price of Bitcoin just because, again, supply and demand, those dynamics they're set in stone. They're solid at this point. Just because, again, they're only making so much Bitcoin, and that amount of Bitcoin that they are making, it decreases every year. Well, not every year. During the halving period, so every roughly 4 years, it's not a year number. It's a number of blocks that have been mined. So that roughly comes out to every 4 years if you're taking like a 10-minute block period. So we'll just continue to see that number drop, and as this number drops, we'll continue to see the price rise. So these are exciting times, guys. I keep saying it, and I'm going to continue to be exciting, not only for Bitcoin, but for the whole crypto space, because it has been a fight to get here. It has been an absolute fight, just politically, socially, and on all the other aspects. But just seeing it play out is definitely a beautiful thing. It's definitely beautiful to see us get to this point and just continue to advance. I am fully under the impression that this is one of the most pivotal technologies that we'll ever have, especially with the advancement of money and the way that we interact with money. So that's pretty much all I have this week. Again, a great end to the month of July, and definitely exciting times ahead for August. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So this has been Chris Talks Crypto. Check out crypto-based resources on christalkscrypto.com, and I will see y'all on the move. Take care. Bye-bye.